Stand back! There's a hurricane coming through!
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
You ain't no superhero. Not like the Scorpion King. You're 100 pounds of nothing. 5 feet nothing. You're not. And as a superhero, you've got braces. You've got braces.
Hey there, I'm Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso. And what's up with that? A lot of time when discussing the WCW invasion in the WWF, you're met with a lot of negatives. But the buyout did give us one major positive. For the first time, I was happy to see a hurricane.
We like the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC 2, Britney Spears is kind of cute.
In WCW, Sugar Shane Helms worked as a member of wannabe boy band 3 Count.
We watch TRL on MTV. Everybody 3 count, 1, 2, 3.
But when he was brought over to the WWF while still maintaining his role on the Alliance, he was given a brand new gimmick. Superhero. Now I remember the first 3 or 4 times I saw him as Hurricane Helms, I couldn't help but laugh. Here was a guy with a gimmick that just seemed like it was better suited for the golden age of wrestling, and being given a name that makes him sound like he's the 3rd member of the Natural Disasters. But after the initial shock wore off, I came to realize this guy made it work. No, he wasn't a real superhero. No, he didn't have superpowers, but, don't let him know that. He was just a delusional comic book nerd in cosplay. But in his own eyes, he was Superman. Or, more accurately, the Green Lantern. On his debut with the company, despite being laughed at by the commentators, his opponent, and me watching back at home, he actually won the European Championship. What was even more entertaining was, considering his allegiance to the Alliance, he was a heel, doing dastardly things, but explaining them away or being far too oblivious to know that what he was doing was wrong. I know another superhero like that. I always thought that he specifically didn't believe he was a heel because he thought he was a superhero. So in his own mind, how could a superhero ever do anything wrong? Everything I'm doing must be right because I'm in tights. He'd also drive to and from shows on his Hurricycle.
And behold, the new and improved Hurricycle.
And make whoosh noises followed by gusts of winds when he entered or left the screen.
Hey!
A little late on the sound effect, but go ahead.
The gimmick at this point seemed to be somewhat inspired by the 60s Batman show, with all its camptastic zaniness, which by the way Hurricane emulated perfectly.
My Hurra sense is tingling. I feel you may be in grave danger. Now, Hurra twin powers, activate!
Hurricane briefly teamed up with Lance Storm, probably due to their names. Hurricane, Storm. Someone on creative thought they were clever.
Therefore, we must be victorious.
So let's just go do it then.
Super.
Unfortunately, the two had little to no chemistry together, and the gimmick was luckily dropped before they were dubbed the Natural Disasters 2.0. Eventually, he managed to brainwash Molly Holly, turning her into Mighty Molly, his brand new sidekick.
Sidekick, come quick.
Holy double cross! We gotta get out of here! And fast! What's up with that?
Helms and Molly would break up following her winning the hardcore title off him, using the 24/7 rule. They'd even have a follow-up match in which they would both be demolished by Brock Lesnar, which is a very fitting end to that story. I accept that. For all the things this gimmick gave to the WWF, I'd like to think its greatest was this Royal Rumble moment from 2002.
Hurricane was a little bit often and Triple H doing this. Wait a minute! He's flying!
Hurricane would head down to the SmackDown roster, where he'd win the Cruiserweight Championship off to Jerry and Billy Kidman in a triple threat match. During his reign as Cruiserweight Champion, he was confronted by his ex-girlfriend and everyone's favorite piece of trailer trash, Nydia, and her new boyfriend, everyone's second favorite piece of trailer trash, Jamie Noble, who would wind up attacking the real-life superhero, This, of course, would lead to a feud between the two, and would see one of the most brutal attacks in all of wrestling history. Nydia's attack on acting.
Stand back! There's a hurricane coming through!
Nydia.
Oh! Stand back! There's a soon-to-be ex-champion coming through!
Holy crap, are these promos uncomfortable to watch. Not only does she act like she's never cut a promo, never been part of anything on camera before, she acts like she's never been around humans before this. He'd eventually be drafted back to Raw, losing the title to Jamie Noble in the process.
Got me, look at this! Oh! And the Hurricane gets his mask back!
After debuting on Raw, he'd be picked by Kane as his brand new tag team partner, in a team creatively called the Hurricane. You get it? Because Kane and Hurricane makes Hurricane. Because someone on creative thought they were clever. You guys are really working for that money, guys. You're doing a good job. Thumbs up. 10 out of 10. They'd win the tag team titles, though admittedly Kane would do most of the work in their team. The two worked well together in the ring and on the mic, but their time together was kept short as both men had other tag teams that they were looking to be paired in. Kane with RVD, and Hurricane with Rosie. The Hurricane was getting constant cheers from the audience. He was an undeniably charismatic character, and his naivety... I didn't say that correctly, did I? And his childlike manner made him instantly likable. He was so beloved that even The Rock took notice, and asked to work with him. The Rock, who was in the midst of his Hollywood heel turn, would constantly pick on and berate Hurricane, referring to him as the Hamburglar.
Hamburglar! Hey, what you gonna do? You gonna throw a chicken McNugget at the Rock? Remember that? Major, with all your friends, you had Grimace and Mayor McCheese, Ronald McDonald, all them.
Holy letdown. Loved by millions. And millions. You trash the people. What's up with that?
Rock has gotta sing a song, baby. What? Excuse the Rock 1 second. To go one-on-one with the great one.
I think the question is, are you ready to go toe-to-toe with the superhero?
Who in the green hell are you? Is it green shirt, H on your chest, green mask? Oh, you're the Hamburglar.
Holy hypocrite. You got Eric Bischoff and his criminal committee doing all your dastardly work. What's up with that?
What superpowers do you have?
I got my hurrah powers, bitch.
Every superhero can whip that ass, every single one of them. Every single one of them. Superman, Batman, Aquaman.
Well, I know one superhero who I could definitely beat. The Scorpion King.
Oh, no, Now the Hurricane could just whip the Scorpion King's ass. Well, if The Rock's memory serves him correctly, it was The Rock that tossed your little Hamburglar monkey ass right over the top rope. You talk trash about how Booker T threw The Rock over the top rope. The Rock tripped, okay? The Rock tripped.
It means the Scorpion King got a tiny ding-a-ling.
Hey, stop cheering.
Believe it or not, those segments led to a match between the two, in which, as you might have guessed, The Rock dominated most of the match, practically wiping the floor with the thought-to-be superhero, though Hurricane, with the help of Stone Cold Steve Austin, would win that match. Getting a pinfall victory over the future Hall of Famer and one of the greatest icons in professional wrestling, and now Hollywood, was by far the highlight of his career.
We are about to see the most electrifying move in sports What? Down to Stone Cold. It's gonna do. What does a roll up? It don't count, does it?
Hurricane would begin teaming with Rosie, Eric Bischoff's former henchman of 3 Minute Warning, labeling him the SHIT. That's superhero in training, or just shit for short, which I hear is what the fans called him too. But before he even got that nickname, so I don't know where that comes from. Maybe they were just ahead of the curve, I don't know. And it was this gimmick that inspired the real-life superhero movement. Well, it was either this or Kick-Ass, one or the other, but I'm willing to bet this had something to do with it. I'm putting blame on this. Hurricane would train Rosie in the ways of being a superhero, And this is a pairing Hurricane may most be remembered for. His ways of mentoring Rosie were, let's say, lacking. Though at least he never made him eat a rat, so I guess there's that. Better mentor than Batman.
You know what I see when I look at you, young Roosevelt? I see a superhero in training.
What?
Man, I don't know about all this superhero and training stuff.
Superhero in training. S-H-I, big old T.
I was walking through the airport today. Somebody recognized me and yelled out, "Hey, you are a big piece of..."
Rosie, that is such an honor. You will definitely be the that shit.
You are not a big piece of that.
Do I get a mask?
Maybe half a mask.
Well, what about a cape? I know I at least get a cape.
No cape, but maybe a towel.
What about superpowers?
Ah, young grasshopper. One must crawl before one can walk. Her powers. Biatch!
Rosie played surprisingly well off the Hurricane, and showed that he could pull off more than just the tough guy gimmick. And with time, he even got his own suit.
I know I'm ready to be a superhero in training.
Ah, young Roosevelt. You're not quite where you need to be.
This is my superhero in training kit.
Where did you get that?
I made it.
Let's keep this
There's a
match
hurricane
continue.
coming
Wait a minute, what is this? Why are they playing the Hurricane? Oh my gosh!
Oh, Christian has no idea. Now,
Turn around and get a look at this!
Christian believes what he's seeing.
Uh-oh, hey!
Oh, Tim. What Rosie just did.
Oh, please! Yeah, it's like an eclipse. That happened a long time ago at first.
Well,
Eventually, the team would win over audiences, and the tag team titles along with them. I remember having very fond memories of Rosie and Hurricane, because around the time they came out, I was already old enough to not really give a crap about, action figures, but I still went out of my way to get the Hurricane and Rosie set when I was younger. For a brief time, they were even accompanied by Stacy Keibler. Oh, I'm sorry, Super Stacy. I mean, I don't just want to be giving out secret identities like that. I mean, does that count as a dox, or am I good?
and look who's joining the champions. Stacy Keibler.
Super Stacy. Man, Mighty Molly she was not. Hurricane was growing weary of being a hero. The constant pain from injury and being seen solely as a comedy act had worn on Helms. And all it'd take was an attack from Kurt Angle ordered by Vince McMahon to really drive Hurricane over the edge. After being on the wrong side of an Angle beatdown, Hurricane slapped Rosie and took off his mask before making his exit. Now, any comic book fan will tell you, every superhero dies. And on this day, it was the death of the Hurricane. He returned to the company as Gregory Helms. Hey, that's kind of funny because I thought your name was Shane, who had a successful stint as the longest reigning Cruiserweight champion. And side note, MySpace was pretty big at the time, and I can remember being younger and sending him a message and telling him he should use this as his new theme song. Suffice it to say, he didn't respond. He didn't get back to me. I mean, looking back, I don't blame him, but I stand by my statement. It would have been a better song. But honestly, he never really did anything that I particularly care about, so let's just move on. Remember back when I said any comic book fan would tell you that every superhero dies? Well, that's not the end of that sentence, because any comic book fan will tell you that every superhero dies, and all superheroes who die inevitably come back to life. And the Hurricane was no different. In 2008, Helms returned briefly to SmackDown. And while he maintained the Hurricane name and logo, he wasn't in the Hurricane gimmick. No longer was Hurricane a superhero, he was just Gregory Helms, with longer hair, and newer shorts. This tenure would be short-lived and barely remembered, and, you know, we're all probably better off for it.
Well, welcome back, Hurricane Helms!
In 2009, Helms was drafted to ECW, where he was made a backstage interviewer, and when something happened, he'd leave the scene and return in Hurricane gimmick to save the day. And this Hurricane looks significantly different to the Hurricane we all knew and loved. While the Hurricane from '02 was a love letter to the Adam West Batman, this Hurricane seemed like a gritty reboot Hurricane. Like this was Christian Bale Hurricane.
Exclusive sit-down interview with the resident superhero himself, the Hurricane. And on my very first night, I became the European champion, the WWE, and I followed that with a win of the Hardcore Championship, of the Cruiserweight Championship, and 2 times with the World Tag Team Championships.
And when he wasn't saving people backstage, he was feuding with Paul Burchill. For some reason, Paul was desperate to prove that Hurricane Helms was actually Gregory Helms, despite that already being a commonly known fact because we all watched the product and we determined this already. We had this information. What are you doing, Paul? Eventually, he challenged him to a mask versus career match. A match Burchill would lose. Not that it mattered anyway, because both men would be released relatively soon. The Hurricane would make appearances at indie shows with brand new gear, and he'd even pop up in gimmick on a few occasions at Impact Wrestling. His last major appearance, though, would come at the 2018 Royal Rumble, entering to massive fanfare, only to immediately be eliminated by John Cena. Oh, you guys know what we want. You know what we want. I know why they call you the creative department. I get it now. You guys are smart. You guys are creative. Guys are making me want to put a bullet through my goddamn head. And that was the Hurricane's time with the company. A former European, hardcore, cruiserweight, and tag team champion. You can't deny that this guy was entertaining, even if you found the gimmick a little bit annoying. I know a lot of people who remember his run with fondness, and I've hardly ever come across someone who had anything bad to say about him, both as a person and a performer. Overall, I think Gregory Helms will be remembered more for his time under the mask than his time without it. No disrespect to his other gimmicks, but come on, Hurricane Helms, the Hurricane, whatever you want to call him, was by far his career's highlight. And if somebody says, I swear, if one of you smarky bastards in the comments wants to bring up how great Sugar Shane Helms was, you know, we're going to go to a ring. At the time of me making this video, he's set to make his debut in Ring of Honor. So it looks like that Hurricane hasn't died down yet, and it may be sweeping into your hometown, if you're lucky. So with that being said, I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and if you like the words that came out of my mouth hole and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's plenty more where this video came from. Follow me on Twitter because, hell, why not? It's not considered stalking if it's on the internet, am I right? And don't forget to join the Discord. I don't have anything catchy to add to that, but just join it. Just go do it. And if you have a free moment of time and a free $1 to spare, then head over to my Patreon, where for just $1, you too could help keep this boat afloat. And if you don't have that $1, but you do have a free moment of time, then hit the share button. It will help me out tremendously.
The V-tart, oh.
Stand back!
That's a fact.
Maybe half a mask.
Well, what about a cape? I know I at least get a cape.
Nuggets!
Ariel, look behind Ricardo!